Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare
Good morning, Dr. Manjunath. Can you hear me, sir?
Yes, sir.
Good morning, sir. You may please start. Thank you.
Can we start?
Yes, please.
Hare Krishna. Very good morning to one and all. There is some disturbance. Very good morning to one and all.
Dr. Manjunath, we are not able to hear you suitably.
There's a lot of echo is coming.
One of the device. Please switch off one of the device. Yes, please.
Prabhuji, I think you are viewing what you are saying. So please switch off all the devices before you.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Very good morning to one and all. Institute of Science and Spirituality, a scientific wing of ISKCON welcomes all.
Dr. Manjunath, can you just keep only one device with you?
Yes, sorry. So very good morning.
No, we can still see two devices on the screen logged in. You have to come out of one of those devices. Do you have a cell phone also and a laptop like that?
Yes.
So you please log off from the cell phone so that you can only use the laptop. No, your other device is still there on the screen. You have not yet logged off.
Can the host remove Manjunath here? Stop.
Okay, no. So what I'll do is I'll begin because I am short of time.
Yeah,
you can do the introduction later.
Maybe I will do the introduction, Prabhu.
Yeah, please go ahead. Yeah.
So on behalf of the Institute for Spirituality and Science, we would like to welcome you all for this second session of the International Conference on Sustainability, Spirituality and Simplicity. I have the honor and privilege to be the session chair amidst the distinguished guests, speakers and participants. I'd like to introduce you to Sri Gauranga Das Prabhu. I've been associated with him for the past 30 years, having been studied in IIT Bombay and started a spiritual journey together. So Sri Gauranga Das has been actively in past 3 decades. He has touched the lives and transformed countless lives through his activities. He has played different roles as in adapting to drive change in society. He is a mindful leadership consultant, running initiatives related to meditation, yoga, and preventive de-addiction, and thus empowering thousands of youth to positively transform their lives. He has established the Govardhan School of Public Leadership in Govardhan Eco Village, involved in training future bureaucrats and public leaders in responsible, mindful leadership with character and integrity based on the principles of Bhagavad Gita. Being a corporate coach, he is giving guidance to corporate leaders and is the convener of events like Artha's conference to inspire entrepreneurs and company heads to give back to society, Nexus conference to bring together environment leaders, corporate heads, etc., to resolve current environmental issues. He is an environmental steward and has implemented sustainable green initiatives in Govardhan Eco Village. GEV is accredited to the United Nations Environment Assembly and UNESCO. As a social reformer, he is facilitating transformation in the lives of tribal villages around GEV through various social and economic interventions. Under his guidance, GV won more than 30 awards in the last 5 years, namely the United Nations Award for Excellence and Innovation in Sustainable Tourism. He holds a BTech degree from IIT Bombay. He is also a great cook and has cooked over 3 million plates in the period from 2007 to 19. During the recent COVID pandemic, he, along with his team at Govardhan Eco Village, cooked over 1 lakh meal to feed to the migrant laborers and the tribal villages. This is a brief introduction about Sri Gauranga Das Prabhu. I would like to welcome him to deliver his talk on
Thank you.
UN Sustainable Development Goals in Govardhan Eco Village.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Srinivas. I hope you are able to hear me.
Yes.
And also see the screen.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So Govardhan Eco Village was developed in 2009 onwards. The idea was that we wanted to connect rural India to the urban India. And the thought process was, what are the needs of the urban masses? The urban masses are looking for peace, and what's the need of the rural masses? They are looking for paisa. So we let us connect the needs of peace by providing wisdom, Ayurveda, and yoga as means for creating peace for the city dwellers. And so ecotourism resort was developed. And then with the income of that, we thought we will be able to support the villagers around us. And 75 villages have been adopted. And in 2017, United Nations World Tourism Organization gave us an award in the NGO category, which is known as ecotourism as a catalyst for rural development. So we are going to share with you how we are executing the UN SDGs through our Govardhan Eco Village model. So the mission of Govardhan Eco Village is alternative sustainable model of the world with simple living, high thinking, harmony with the self, divine nature and humanity, and powerful optimized action models and sustainability technological interventions. So the first UN SDGs of no poverty. We have actually conducted more than 3,000 farmers training in organic farming. We actually teach them how they can make cow urine and cow dung based insecticides and herbicides and pesticides. We also show them how to do short term through agriculture, medium term through floriculture, and long term through horticulture, various kinds of agricultural interventions. We have reversed the migration and arrested the people's tendency to leave their farmlands and go to the factories to work. And at the same time, through this what is known as Wadi program, which I talked about, where there is multi-cropping and multiple options for the farmers' income, we have actually helped in increase farmers' income from 8,000 rupees per annum, to 200,000 per annum in some cases. Average income of Palghar district, where we are, which has 8 talukas, 7 of which are rural talukas, the average income is only 27,000 rupees per household. So therefore, poverty is a very big issue. And as a result, through our impact for over 10,000 farmers whom we have connected with, detailed training programs have been conducted for more than 3,000 of them. We also provide them a facility of taking care of cows and animals. So this is impact which we have created as far as no poverty is concerned. The second, I must confess that as far as rural development is concerned and training of farmers, we were handheld and trained by BAIF, Bharat Agro Industry Federation, and we got trained under them. Second is Zero Hunger, where we distribute 200,000 plus meals annually. And during the COVID, we distributed more than 100,000 free meals under what is known as Govardhan Annakshetra Free Meal Distribution Program. As you may be aware, Srila Prabhupada, the founder of ISKCON, made a statement: no one around 1 mile radius of the temple should go hungry. And ISKCON temples have free food distribution programs. In the early 2000s, ISKCON created a revolution by combining with the midday meal scheme of the central government and the state government, and thus creating from 1st to 8th standard what is known as midday meal nourishing meals to ensure the prevention of school dropouts. And as a result, the impact was that with Akshay Patra at 1.7 million meals per day and Annamrita with almost 1.3 million meals per day, ISKCON has been distributing 3 million meals per day every day in the schools. But the problem is these meals are given only to 1st to 8th standard children. Sometimes there are schools in which 9 to 12 standard are also there, the government schools. But those students, they do not get access to these meals. So in Palghar district, we have been running campaigns to distribute food to these school children and also to farmers and to also the various ladies, because food becomes the catalyst for all the people to come together for training programs. And as a result of having good training programs and good capacity building, they are actually able to improve their livelihoods. So therefore, when we look at Govardhan Annakshetra, Govardhan Annakshetra becomes a very important catalyst to arrest any kind of dropouts from training program for capacity building and livelihood creation. Third is good health and well-being. So many of you are aware that we have a hospital in Mira Road, which is one of the suburbs of Mumbai, called Bhaktivedanta Hospital. So Bhaktivedanta Hospital has also got almost 6 centers, primary healthcare centers in Palghar district, and some of them are right close to the eco village. So far, we have conducted more than 2,500 health camps, 100,000 treatments, and more than 1,800 cancer surgeries. There have also been regular eye camps being held, and on a regular basis, these mobile clinics, they travel across the district, providing healthcare to the needy. Many of you may not be aware that India, with a population of 1.3 billion, has only 1.4 million doctors, out of which 700,000 doctors are Ayurveda and other naturopath. 700,000 doctors are allopath. Out of this 700,000, 150,000 doctors are the only doctors for 800 million rural population of India. And 550,000 doctors are the ones for almost 500 million urban population of India. So we can see that there is a huge deficit of doctors and medical facilities in rural India. And so we are trying to now tie up with the Apollo Hospital and create telemedicine centers, 7 primary healthcare centers of telemedicine. In due course of time, we want to open a secondary healthcare center, 100-bedded hospital right here in next to the eco village. Then fourth is quality education. As all of you know, India, with a population of 1.3 billion, has 270 million students in K to 12, K1 to 12. Then K to 12, apart from that, from 12th standard, you may expect a majority of them to go to college. But surprisingly, if you see, there is an 88% dropout rate of students during their journey from K to 12. And after 12th, only 12% of the students who have started the journey at the K enter into college. So this 12th standard in India is known as educational line of control. This is a big issue and we want to arrest this. And therefore, we have actually created rural education wing, where you see on the right-hand side bottom, where our volunteers go to different schools and using various models, it's in what is known as mobile science vans, and conducting various mathematics classes. They actually help in capacity building and improve the education standards. More than 9,000 have been benefited, 1,000 sessions have been conducted, more than 50 schools have been reached. This year, we are tying up with Kaivalya Education Foundation and creating an entire transformation of the district education program. In this, 750,000 students are in Palghar district, out of which 2,500 schools we are trying to impact. through 19,000 teachers and principals. The idea is we want to train these 19,000 teachers and principals in such a way that they will become confident and have the capacity to be able to create that transformation. Therefore, this has been successfully executed for a long time, and we are running a CSR program for this, and 22 Gandhi Fellows will be deployed as part of this. And so you see there is also Gurukul, and also we have School of Public Leadership. Also we have Bhaktivedanta Research Center, which has PhDs, masters, and various other projects, books in library and museum, etc. Then we have women empowerment through agriculture, skills, livelihood training, self-help groups, and women health programs. As you know, that women can also play a major role in the microeconomy in a rural setting. And these need to be trained. And therefore, we will find various kinds of skills can be taught to these women. We have more than 300 self-help groups where they are taught how to make bamboo products, how to make cosmetic products, how to make various kinds of agricultural products. More than 3,000 women have been empowered and 12,000 family members have been impacted as part of what is known as the Women Empowerment Program. And the sixth UN SDG is clean water and sanitation. As you know, that 97.5% of the global water is salt water. Only 2.5% of global water is actually fresh water. So there is only 1.1 quadrillion acre feet of fresh water available on the planet. And therefore, if you are looking at the 2.5% of fresh water, which is openly available, you'll be shocked to know that 99.7% of this 2.5% fresh water is either in form of glaciers or groundwater or atmospheric water. Only 0.3% of that fresh water is what you see in the screen in the form of either well water or lake water or river water. So therefore, Jal hi Jeevan hai, and water is the basic foundational principle for growth and development for anybody in a rural place. So although Maharashtra and especially Palghar is very powerfully endowed with almost 3,500 millimeters of rain, but still because of lack of proper planning, there is a huge surface runoff and we find that the water is not conserved. And therefore, it is very important for us to actually develop 850 plus lift irrigation beneficiaries, more than 5,500 drinking water beneficiaries, and more than 1,000 customized irrigation beneficiaries we have created. And we initially did a hydrogeological survey with Aquadam and Dr. Himanshu Kulkarni, and we are trying to help all our villagers become water positive in all these 70 plus villages. Seventh, dear friends, is affordable and clean energy. And at the Govardhan Eco Village, thanks to support from Reliance Foundation and Apar Foundation, we have created solar power. And almost 200 kilowatt of solar power is already there. Our total requirement is 270 kilowatt, but somehow there are some strange rules of Maharashtra State Electricity Board, where even if you become energy positive, you are not allowed to give back to the grid. And there is a maximum cap of how much alternative energy you can generate. So definitely India needs a lot of intervention at the policy level, because some of the current regulations are pretty strange. And then there is a 3,600 kilogram of cow dung, which gives 30 cubic meter of biogas at the eco village. We see below was functioning but no longer functioning because we could not find a good guy who would be able to keep going behind the bull. It's a very interesting model. What you see is the bull is moving, and there is a gear system which is helping to actually lift. It's a lift irrigation system, and that is known as animal driven prime mover, ADPM. But in spite of repeated efforts to find consistent people who could actually take charge of bulls for 8 hours a day and keep moving round and round and not get dizzy was difficult. So therefore, on the ground level, we have experienced there are many exciting ideas which may appear to be very romantic, but then on the ground level, it becomes difficult to execute for various reasons. So therefore, some of our initiatives are eco-friendly, but I have experienced some of them are not ego-friendly, not acceptable to people's nature. Then we have decent work and economic growth. So we have created micro enterprises and Govardhan Skill Center, through which we have actually created a 70,000 square feet excellent facility for blue collar skilling. We have created for purple collar skilling and white collar skilling of various roles, including training in computer, training in engineering, training in agriculture, training in various kinds of home care products, etc. More than 50 plus livelihood initiatives are there. Actually, the number of tribals we have benefited has grown to more than 5,000 as of now. This is one of the old statistics. And therefore, there are a lot of important initiatives which we have accomplished with respect to micro enterprises and Govardhan Skill Center. Then the ninth is industry, innovation, and infrastructure. We have created almost 200,000 square feet of built space with respect to tourism resort, but it has been done with complete green building. So GRIHA means Green Rating for Integrated Habitat Assessment, Ministry of New and Renewable Energies initiative, and we have a 5-star in that. And Indian Green Building Council has platinum rated the project. And more than 400,000 compressed stabilized earth blocks have been used, which 7.5% of cement, 3% of lime, and as compared to 72 megajoules per kilogram of embodied energy for a regular brick and plaster and paint wall, this mud block wall uses only 0.275 megajoules per kilogram of energy. And therefore, before creating that, as you can see, we banned all vehicles inside, only electric cars are used, as seen in the left hand lower. And on the right hand upper, you see a beautiful pond. So Dr. Himanshu Kulkarni and Aquadam suggested, after doing the hydrogeological survey, that this is the spot where the maximum water will flow in from the mountains. And therefore, we actually took advantage of a government scheme, which in Maharashtra is known as issdelhi, or agriculture tank scheme for every farmer who's having agricultural land. Up to 12 lakhs is budgeted in every state government. But the law and the policies and the schemes and the grants are encoded in such tough language that it is almost impossible for a farmer to figure out that he has access to this. Luckily, one of our devotees, Adi Gadadhar Prabhu from Atlanta, his father-in-law was actually Agriculture Secretary, Maharashtra government. He revealed to us that such a scheme exists, and so we could do that. So this is almost 16 feet deep pond, and it holds almost 15 million liters of water, and 40 million liters of water is recycled with SBT, with soil biotechnology, which is seen below, which is a patent of IIT Bombay. And through a sewerage gravity-driven system, it comes to a collection tank, and then through a simple pump mechanism, that water is, the black and gray water is pumped onto what you see as appears to be a beautiful garden. But it is the PhD project of Dr. Biplav Patnaik, whose PhD guide is Dr. Professor S. Shankar. And together, along with IIT Bombay, they have patented this technology where the sewage black and gray water is allowed to percolate through soil bacteria, through root bacteria, through geophagous earthworms, and all of this through the earth. And then what comes out is fish fit water. And so 4 crore liters of water is recycled with SBT or soil biotechnology. Interestingly, we have this going on for last 10 years, and we have hardly had any maintenance issues with this. So the only mechanization used is for lifting the water through a pump. Then 10th is reduced inequalities. So in 2017, Govardhan Eco Village was awarded UNWTO Award, United Nations World Tourism Award, Organization Award for Ecotourism, and receives 20,000 international national visitors. So we are reducing inequalities by creating facilities to bridge the urban with the rural. Just see how tourists from America and Europe and Australia are sitting with the tribal ladies and working with them hand in hand in trying to make products which can then be utilized by them. Then we see the tourists are sitting along with the tribal ladies and doing farming. Then there are international conferences which is bringing in top level corporates from different parts of the world to be able to see what kind of agriculture interventions the farmers and their families are making. And in this way, we are bridging the gap and reducing the inequalities. 11th, sustainable cities and communities. So India has a few holy places. Today I am in Jagannath Puri, but the crowd in Jagannath Puri is overwhelming. I have never seen anything like this before. Maybe it is the post-corona effect. But 1 month before Rath Yatra, such a huge crowd and the traffic jams and so much of waste being disposed. So naturally, places in India get very aggressively, mobbed by pilgrims, and some of the holy places especially get more pilgrims than others. So one model which we are suggesting is India has a lot of free land. So in each of the 748 districts, different organizations and individuals can allot in every district 100-acre land, and in that 100 acre they could replicate in 20 to 25 acres one holy place, and that holy place can be curated keeping all the sustainability principles in mind. So we brought in Bombay Natural History Society, and we brought in some of the best landscapists and brought in some of the biodiversity conservation experts, and we are also working closely with Braj Tirth Vikas Parishad. And all of these people are experienced in maintaining holy places. Along with them, we have recreated Vrindavan Dham. What is the advantage? You can have your own guest house facility of the best 5-star type where the visitors can come and stay. You can also kind of give all the tourists and pilgrims an experience of Vrindavan, or Rishikesh, or Badrinath, or Kedarnath, or Varanasi, or Srirangam, or Madurai, in your own controlled context, without all kinds of crowds. And maybe more people will be inclined to visit such places who do not have a previous experience or natural faith towards a holy place. So we will be able to showcase the tradition and the glory of some of our holy places by curating holy places like this. So that's what we have been doing, where it's 100% waste-free, 100% waste-free holy place which has been recreated. And therefore, we call it a sustainable city and community. Then, responsible consumption and production. Today, the world is seeing a situation where there are almost 6 million alcohol addicts and 6 million smoking addicts and 4 million alcohol addicts across the whole world. People have lost control over their own habits. And therefore, the way to control yourself is through yoga and through Ayurveda and through proper food habits. So we have Govardhan School of Yoga, which gives programs all through the year. We have Govardhan Ayurveda with Vaidyagram, which is giving various kinds of 7 days, 12 days, 14 days, 21 days, 28 days, Ayurveda packages to balance the Kapha, Vata and Pitta, to maintain robust health. And in this way, we are treating hundreds of people every year. And along with that, we also created a brand of our own food which is acquired from all the farmers, called Haribol, pure food for the soul. And in this way, we are teaching people that one of the biggest causes of climate change is a meat-based economy and a meat-based lifestyle. And therefore, all of us are aware, those who are dealing in the sustainability space, that one of the best ways of arresting climate change is to go to a plant-based diet. And that's what is being proposed. Then, as far as climate action is concerned, in climate action, there is so much of powerful activities which we are doing in organizing conferences of people from across the whole world. And in this way, we are bringing in the thought leaders to create synergies and transformation. We are also creating biofertilizers, biopesticides, and we have a plastic pyrolysis plant where we convert all the plastic into fuel. This is part of Life Below Water, which is the 14th SDG, and we are very successfully doing this amongst the community around the eco-village. Then we have Life on Land, where we have 52 plus indigenous species of rice and millets being conserved. We have 20,000 plus trees and 165 plus species of thousands of butterflies and birds, which we are conserving as part of what is known as Life on Land. Then, as far as peace, justice, and strong institutions, we have a community which is equity for all, including the animals, the cows, and the human beings. Everybody is given the equal disposition and opportunity to live and grow. And the 17th is, partnerships for the same. You can see the scope of partnerships which we are currently involved in, right from government agencies to Israel, to government of United States, to the various kinds of activities happening with the corporates. We are there. And in this way, dear friends, I'm happy to be able to present to you how Govardhan Eco Village is able to have an intervention in each of the 17 SDGs and trying to support the same. So this is basically what it is, that now the Govardhan GEV 2.0 is a catalyst for social change, and we are actually creating change based on 3 pillars of education, healthcare, and entrepreneurship. And this is how we will do that, by breaking the intergenerational cycle of poverty. Poverty is the cause of poverty, and poverty is the result of poverty. And you can see a poor household has little food, unclean water, no school, disease, no energy, skills, low productivity, low or no income, low self-esteem, and high childbirth, sick elderly, and more dependence. So infant mortality rate, maternal mortality rate, severely acutely malnourished, and nutrition rehabilitation center need to be created. And so we will collaborate with local institution players to leverage deep community knowledge and facilitate social behavioral change. And then convergence is to establish agenda-based forums at district to align and build. And this complex cycle of poverty needs intervention and an integrated approach over education, health, and nutrition, and livelihood and research. And therefore, these are some of the things which I was sharing, how we are going to impact 2,500 schools and in healthcare in 7 different talukas, livelihood by setting up digital literacy, forward linkage and micro entrepreneurship, and research through food, water, energy, and waste. And in this way, we are happy that we are moving in the journey of creating complete district transformation as part of Govardhan Eco Village. These are my coordinates. Any of you who is interested, we are happy to share how we are trying our level best to create a model for sustainable communities through Govardhan Eco Village. gaurangadas@ecovillage.org.in 99301 I share regular updates of some of my activities and spirituality, sustainability, and social impact on Gaurangadas official Facebook page, Instagram page, and co-app. So now I request the organizer to show the 1-minute video, which I have shared with them in advance, and I will stop sharing the screen here.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, that video is for 10 minutes, I believe.
Okay, please go ahead.
Rampant illiteracy, malnutrition, and lack of infrastructure. This is the story of Wada, one of India's most backward tribal areas. However, since 2010, Ecotourism has become a lifeline for this region. Govardhan Eco Village's sustainable development model, which is based on harmony with the self, the environment and the divine, has helped employ over 300 tribal families. More than 60,000 tribals have been provided free medical care.
मोतीबिंदूचं ऑपरेशन झालं मला आता चांगलं दिसतं
30,000 free meals are provided to school children every day.
मुलं स्वतःहून शाळेत यायला तयार होतात.
Over 60 bore wells have been installed.
पाण्याच्या सर्व अडचणी दूर झाल्या.
More than 300 families received training in organic farming.
आता पैसे येतात आणि बचत पण होते.
Govardhan Eco Village has transformed the lives of the most deprived communities in the world.
And the winner of the 13th UNWTO Award for Innovation in Non-Governmental Organization is Govardhan Eco Village Ecotourism as a Catalyst for Rural Development.
It's my honor and privilege to receive this award on behalf of the land of India. I would like to express my heartfelt gratitude to UNWTO for giving us this opportunity to share this message of sustainability on a larger scale, especially in this very special year where this year is being celebrated as the Year of Sustainable Tourism. My heartfelt gratitude to His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada, founder of ISKCON, His Holiness Radhanath Swami, who is the founder of the Govardhan Eco Village, Sanat Kumar Prabhu, who is heading the Rural Development Program at the Govardhan Eco Village, the community of devotees of ISKCON worldwide for their support, to Chitra Vishwanath, who's been our main guide in this project at the Eco Village, to our Honorable Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji for spreading the message of yoga and the Vedic culture all over the world, and specifically to the Ministry of Tourism for their support, Government of India, and we hope and pray that we'll be able to utilize this honor to spread the message of peace, harmony and sustainability more and more. Thank you very much.
Govardhan Eco Village is about 2.5 hours northeast of Mumbai in a very beautiful rural village area of Maharashtra. There's a very holy place in India which is considered most sacred to devotees of Krishna. It's called Vrindavan. And in that Vrindavan is a mountain named Govardhan, which represents environmental, ecological harmony with spiritual principles.
This place is very special. Certainly it's unique in India and perhaps unique in the whole world. It's like a retreat center. It's like a spa. It's like an ashram. It's a place that's designed as an experiment to merge environmentalism, animal rights, and bhakti, spirituality, together, and it's working.
Come dance with me.
The amenities here are of a whole nother caliber. People, when they think of the words India and ashram, they think of harsh and rough living. From the Ayurvedic clinic, which not only gives treatments but also has an Ayurvedic doctor who helps prescribe something that is specific for your dosha. The atmosphere that is created by the founder, Radhanath Swami Maharaj, and the atmosphere that is created by the devotees who work here is palpable. You can feel it in the air.
Originally, I was from Chicago. When I was 19 years old in 1970, I wanted to try to broaden my outlook of life. So I went on a journey. Ultimately, I hitchhiked from London to the Himalayas in India. And as I was traveling, I came to realize that the real social and environmental problems of the world are due to a spiritual crisis. A crisis in what we consider is actually meaningful and fulfilling in our life.
Swami is a passionate person. The best passion is compassion, and he has an ample amount of that. And that type of passion is contagious.
Coming here and helping to, doing the seva, the service, helping with the cows, helping with to weave mats, helping with make pottery. It's actually fun. It's very simple lifestyle, and I think a lot of us crave that on different levels.
And it's sort of programmed into our culture that you look for recognition, you need it. For me being here, I see it's far more powerful to be humble.
It was easy to complain about the tiny inconveniences that come with a New York City apartment. Oh, it's not big enough. Oh, the water pressure isn't great enough. When you live in a house that you see built from the ground up, every step along the way, it's very special.
When people come here, we're trying to inspire an educational, experiential alternative of a fulfilling, meaningful, sustainable, healthy life.
Apart from these jasmine flowers which you're seeing, he grows a lot of these ladyfingers, okra. Yeah. So we network with all these farmers so that we purchase them in our kitchen and use them.
Can we get this to the kitchen? We can give them to the,
And the inspiration of this project, Srila Prabhupada, he called this transformation simple living and high thinking.
We get 3,000 millimeters of rain annually. So the rainwater hits against those mountains, the Sahyadri mountain ranges, and flows down and collects here. And it is sufficient water for us to irrigate our fields for up to 6 to 7 months every year. The majority of India's population, which is 1.2 billion, lives in the villages. So one of the very important requirements to develop a village is how can water be conserved.
The process begins here. As you can see, the raw sewage is falling and there are some screens. The first chamber is called screen chamber, where we are trying to separate floating solids. This is the raw water where we began, and this is the treated water.
The uniqueness of this place comes from the fact that every waste is becoming a precious resource. That cow dung becomes a fertilizer for earth. He needs fire or energy for cooking his food, and therefore all of the cow dung we utilize for biogas plant. We need to make houses, so we use the same earth, and we have created 250,000 bricks. We call this a symbiotic recycling model. Flushing your toilet, you are contributing to the growth of a papaya. You are contributing to the growth of flowers.
One of the greatest management gurus says that the greatest management challenge of the 21st century is managing oneself.
Many corporate heads are having seminars and retreats here. And they also see alternative ways by which they could focus their own corporations and feel a real sense of responsibility to humanity.
The thing I'm most compelled to do when I get home is really a seva. It's service. It gets us out of being so self-absorbed.
I always had too much, and now I want to have a simple life, like here. I love simple life, and my goal is to make a simple life in my home.
And if we just refocus our energies with these values, we could transform the world.
Every step that I take, a dance for you, a dance for you. Whoa, with me.
place on this planet.
Thank you very much, Gauranga Prabhu, for an excellent presentation. As you can see from the reviews, you made it possible that we have to shift back to the villages possible, and it's essential when at a time when we flock to cities and towns and make our lives miserable. So there are some questions here, Prabhu. You can address them. I will read it out for them. We have from Neeraj Sharma. How is the plastic waste, especially food packaging plastic, being dealt with at the Govardhan Eco Village? Any plans for expansion to the east, west, north, and central India?
Yeah. So basically, we have a team for segregation. So one of the biggest challenges for any waste is segregation at source. India typically does not have that strong culture, and it's a big challenge to instill that. So once the plastic waste is segregated, then we have a pyrolysis plant, and that in that pyrolysis plant we are able to do that and convert it into fuel. We are also now looking at other options of converting the plastic into various other products, but that's still a work in progress. As far as expansion plans are concerned, our model is very simple. We have created a detailed eco village consulting model. That means anybody says, I have a dream to create an eco village in America, in Europe, in India, any corner of the world. You write a mail to us, and then we have an entire program by which you can stay with us for 1 month. It's just like a regular consulting with a fee, and you pay those fees, and then we will handhold you, and all the details of how the contract will work is described, and then we will help you set up your own eco village. So we have an eco village consulting wing of the eco village also, all set.
Thank you very much, Prabhu. I had the opportunity to visit Govardhan Eco Village 4 years back, and I think this information will be very useful for many who would be interested in such projects. There's a question from Vinay Kumar. That is there any mental health remediation center for all, even those who feel that they are mentally well?
Yes. So both the yoga deals with the mind, bhakti and the Vrindavan forest deals with the mind, and also as far as Ayurveda is concerned, there are packages and therapies by which the disturbances of the vata, because ultimately as per Ayurveda, the vata disturbances create the mental illness. So if your vata is aggressively moving in the direction of being disturbed, there are methods by which it can be brought under control. So these are the definite things.
Thank you, Prabhu. I maybe take 2 more questions. There's a question from Dr. Severin Parnon that how do you address and manage tensions or conflicts between economic profit motives and social and environmental concerns?
Well, it has to begin from the human being, because it is the human being whose greed inspires him to do various things. So therefore, spiritual places need to play a major role in arresting climate change, and accepting this fact, United Nations set up in 2017 a Faith for Earth initiative, wherein all religious leaders of influence across the world have been created as faith counselors. So I have also been appointed as a faith counselor by UN, so that along with my other sermons, I can also spread the message of climate change to various people. So the temples, synagogues, mosques, churches are inspired by the United Nations to become places of dissemination of knowledge about the impact of climate change and how to lead lifestyle, which will actually help in mitigation of climate change.
Thank you very much, Prabhu. There's a question from Ravi Prakash. Basically, how many eco villages are there in India and globally?
There is a website called Global Eco Village Network, GEN. You can go on that and see for yourself how many are there. Sometimes there are eco villages, but they may not be registered with the GEN, so you may not see them. But at least, as far as I know, at least 10 to 15 are there in India.
Maybe one last question because there are too many. So I'll just, those who are already in the urban cities, so how do they implement simple living and high thinking in their daily life?
By beginning with high thinking. Once you begin thinking high, your transformation happens. You'll realize that my other needs are not as many as I thought. Your priorities will change. And based on that, only simple living should follow through as a simple byproduct of the high thinking. It should not be imposed.
Thank you very much, Prabhu. I think there are many more questions, but we have limited of time.
Hare Krishna, Dhanavad Pranam Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
Excellent presentation. We hope to get back to you soon. Thank you very much. So we'll move on to the next keynote speaker, and I'll introduce you to him. So we have Dr. Sachin Chaturvedi. He is currently the Director General at the Research and Information System for Development Countries, a New Delhi-based think tank. He works on issues related to development economics, involving development finance, sustainable development goals, and South-South cooperation, apart from trade, investment, and innovation linkages with special focus on WTO. He is also a member, Board of Governors, Reserve Bank of India. He has been part of several important initiatives of the Government of India and takes keen interest in transforming economic policy making towards integrated and evidence-based approaches. He is one of the foremost commentators on India's external sector economic engagements and partnerships. He has authored, edited more than 20 books and published numerous research articles. And he was also the Global Justice Fellow at the Macmillan Center for International Affairs at Yale University in 2009 to 2010. And he has served in many other positions. Professor Chaturvedi has taken keen interest in building of institutions and launching of networks. He is credited with the launch of network of Southern Think Tank and Forum for Indian Development Cooperation. He has also created Delhi Process, a major forum for exchange of ideas in South-South cooperation. So today we'll hear from him on the topic of General RIS, Swadeshi, Atmanirbhar and Sustainability, Convergences and the Way Forward. Over to you, Dr. Sachin.
Thank you. Thanks, Mr. Moderator, Mr. Srinivas. It's a pleasure. I would like to thank Professor Goyal for giving me this opportunity and getting us with the ideas which are there in terms of identifying the broad contours of our focus and our participation. We just had an excellent presentation this morning where we talked about the features that were captured in an excellent articulation of how we bring in several dimensions, which it's a coincidence that I would also be capturing. I think the ideas that are there with the 3S conference in terms of sustainability, simplicity, and spirituality, probably the economic models that we have chosen and the dimensions of work program that have evolved, I think we need to focus on dimensions that are far more important at this point as we take the whole economic journey, our reconciliation with climate change, and the new initiatives that are needed for all the three, bringing in spirituality with simplicity, but also committed for sustainability. So even if we reverse the order, the dimensions become extremely clear. And somehow in Indian thought process, this has been very much evident. And today I'm trying to capture this for last 2 centuries, the ideas that have evolved and how we have captured that in the 3S conference context that is there before us. And I'm trying to see this move from the point of view of how Swadeshi and Atmanirbhar Bharat ideas have evolved. Are they same or they are different? If they are different, in what ways they are different? And how do we reconcile them in terms of the new strategies that are needed? And here I feel that if we look at the whole dimension of post-colonial or even during colonial times, the factors that were identified as great limitations, as was mentioned in terms of SDG Goal 1 with no poverty, the issues are how countries address these skill gaps. How do we bring in greater awareness for national production systems? How do we create space for local actors? And that, I think, is important for all the countries that are evolving their dimensions of engagement. And this is where I think the issues that came up during India's freedom struggle are important. It is the idea of Swadeshi, which is very much linked with the concept of Swaraj and the self-rule. And sometimes the specific instances become epicenter for growth of new series of concepts, series of ideas, philosophies, and ideologies as they emerge as. What Lord Curzon did in 1905 with division of Bengal created a huge movement which was for Swadeshi. It became a part of interaction that was important in terms of how Bengal's division became epicenter for a completely new thought and ideas. It started with opposition to the division of Bengal, but it soon became part of the boycott calls that were given for Manchester cloth or Liverpool salt. And this became part of Bankim Chand Chatterjee's Vande Mataram. We found in Andhra Pradesh the whole movement was articulated through Vande Mataram movement. Rabindranath Tagore gave the idea of Amar Sonar Bangla, the whole idea of a collective capability and local capability to address the colonial masters' demands that were there. And this, in a way, got articulated through Gandhi's own non-violent movement idea of how we bring moral fabric to our broad industrial development strategy. And this was largely the idea that was emanating out of simplicity and awareness of the economic progress. So this movement was largely trying to go forward with the concept of participation and engagement. And that's where we see a larger trajectory of economic development that was going ahead at the pace at which we were trying to see the new realities that were coming in. But as movements move forward, we find that they also get, in a way, sort of challenge for them to go forward. And that, I think, is a limitation that we saw in case of the idea of Swadeshi, which as a movement evolved, and at some point it embraced socialism. The idea got into a phase where sort of terms like self-reliance, and it was said how Swadeshi movement is not exactly self-reliance, but somehow it became part of that. It became an articulation against the role of the private sector. It became more a celebration of state-led development. So post-independence, we see that going forward. And in fact, it so happened that the non-capitalist economies embraced the idea of self-reliance when G77 and non-aligned movement came in. So you can see how some of the concepts that were prevalent in the geostrategic and geopolitical context got intermingled with the idea of self-reliance. And the translation of Swadeshi as self-reliant also led India to become more close economy, more autarkic in nature. And this was largely happening because we got linked at the conceptual and practical level with the countries that were part of our G77 and non-aligned movement, but with different ideological bent of mind. And that, I think, created a major challenge in terms of how we look forward, how we see the Swadeshi movement. And unfortunately, the idea of Swadeshi got completely caged under the concept of self-reliance. So here it is important for us to see how Prime Minister's idea of Atmanirbhar Bharat is trying to take these Swadeshi out of that autarkic self-reliance concept. And this is more in terms of how we can bring in production systems which are also globally linked. And that part, I think, is important. And in today's discussion, I would very much like to emphasize the point that idea of Swadeshi, whether we talk of Dadabhai Naroji or Justice Mahadev Govind Ranade, we find Swaraj and Swabhiman linked with the idea of Swadeshi. So these translations sometimes lose the very meaning with which we start the movement. And 1905, when the Bengal division was opposed, the idea of Swadeshi was very much imbibing the values, ethos, and the idea of dharma, which was entangled with the concept of Swaraj and Swabhiman. And these three trinity then converge in the freedom struggle that Dadabhai Naroji and Justice Mahadev Govind Ranade took forward. Dadabhai articulated the theory of wealth drain from India. And I think it is pertinent here to quote Gallagher, who in a way quoted Justice Ranade, where he says, every nation which desires economical advancement has to take care of its urban population, bear an increasing ratio to its rural masses with every advance it seeks to make. And this is precisely what we heard from Gaurang Das ji when he was talking about this balance that is pertinent. Again, in the Pune Quarterly, Justice Ranade wrote about the distinctions that are important in terms of agriculture production, and they taking forward in terms of how the percentage share has to be increased for urban and rural balance. And that is important for us to realize that idea of Swadeshi was not exactly of self-reliance alone. It was far, far bigger. Gopal Krishna Gokhale, as president in 1905, said, the true Swadeshi movement as both a patriotic and an economic movement, the idea of Swadeshi or one's own country is one of noblest conception that had ever stirred the heart of humanity. Subsequently, the Congress gave the call for British goods. But it is important again to see the speech that he delivered in 1916. And Gokhale's this speech was in Madras, where he talked about the Swadeshi spirit, and he talked about the exclusions that are happening with this. His idea was that it should converge, it should bring in economies that are there, both in terms of the exclusion of neighborhood. So his idea was that if a particular region within a country is also becoming self-contained, the idea of exclusion of the neighborhood should become immediately clear to us. And this is where the current concept of Atmanirbhar Bharat brings in better light to us, because it tells us that the global connect of production system is equally important. So the idea of Swadeshi, the idea of Atmanirbhar Bharat, they are in a way same, but they are also distinct in the sense that in the concept of Atmanirbhar, you also bring in the idea of Swaraj, you also bring in the idea of Swabhiman. So the current India-China trade imbalance that we see is not out of the Swadeshi concept that we are following, but it is also in a way manifested through the articulation of Atmanirbhar Bharat. And that's how We are trying to leverage our connect with the other partner countries, but also going to take this forward. And this, in a way, reflects the requirement of having quality and efficiency. So idea of Swadeshi is not at the cost of compromising efficiency and quality. And from that, the whole concept of Swadeshi spirit emerges, and the concept of our approach for foreign trade emerges. This is important in the light of Gurudev Rabindranath Tagore's idea of how Swadeshi movement should be seen and how Swadeshi Samaj should be seen. And this is an important bearing in terms of how our economic policy at the micro level, at the village level, and also at the household level would hold the way we pursue our chosen vocation and our lifestyle. This has great meaning in terms of the idea of 3S, of spirituality, and getting the concepts absolutely clear in terms of simplicity and its connect with sustainability. So those dimensions are woven in here in our thoughts and in our approaches, which were there before independence. As part of the independence struggle, they were very much there. Somehow we lost them out over the years, and we need to capture it back. It is also very much evident in the vernacular language literature which emerged in those years. It could bring in the idea of local livelihood security, the idea of skill development. So idea of Swadeshi is not confined to boycotts. It is not about burning of clothes. It is about developing local industries. It is about developing local banks, local insurance agencies, local academic institutions, and creating popular movements about our language, about our bolis, as they are not documented and created their guidelines for being a language, so they don't fall into that category, but that has to be taken in. So those dimensions are about the local connect, and that I think is important in this table. I'm sorry the font size is very small, but I wanted to communicate that several ideas came up to evolve the new institutions. The idea of National Council of Education, which was proposed, the idea of Bengal National College that was proposed, and also the idea of industries, Praful Chand Ray's Bengal Chemicals, J.N. Tata's Iron and Steel, Bengal Lakshmi College Mills, Mohan Mills. So several of these industries that came up in 1905, 1906, they were part of our effort for Atmanirbhar Bharat. They were part of our effort for Swadeshi, but they were not part of our idea of de-linking them from Swabhiman or with Swaraj. And that's where the whole Namdhari sect which came in, and Namdhari sect created a huge industrial base for economic development. So what we are seeing in terms of Govardhan Eco Village, what we are seeing in terms of new consultancy firms, they are also part of what we saw in last more than 100 and 150 years in terms of the evolution of the idea, creating the simplicity and spirituality interwoven in the concept of sustainability. And that dimension gave us the bandwidth. The books that came out by Dadabhai Naroji, Gopal Krishna Gokhale, Rabindranath Tagore, or even Mahatma Gandhi, I think they were important in terms of we taking the concepts and ideas forward. If I continue with that, the idea of southern economies of countries that came out of the shackles of colonization, they also tried to develop the conceptual framework in terms of how they would follow the concept. They required resources. They approached United Nations for creating a fund that was called as SUNFED, Spatial UN Fund for Economic Development of Underdeveloped Areas. This was a proposal which could not get through. But the idea was there that they need skill, they need resources. And that's where the idea of self-reliance came in. UNCTAD, the United Nations Conference on Trade and Development, tried to cater to the needs of these developing countries which were out of colonization, but it could not go forward. And that's where the whole concept came in terms of participation and bringing in under G77 and non-aligned movement countries together, creating a platform. But then the leftist ideological inclinations prevailed because some of the countries were out of the bloc from the Socialist Republic or the Chinese idea of socialism. And that's where the convergence happened of G77 and NEM. And we see this happening even in Latin American countries. Raul Prebisch from Argentina talked about the idea of Santa Periphery. Lewis, who got Nobel Prize in Economics, also talked about these ideas being taken forward. And that's when Indonesia came up with the Bandung Conference of 1955, and the concept took us forward. The whole idea of new international economic order, or even ACLAC in the Latin American and Caribbean region, talked about the concepts that were taking us forward in the direction of Swadeshi. And that was the international context of Swadeshi movement that was happening. And this continued throughout the years of 70s when the Buenos Aires Plan of Action came up and the Arusha Declaration came up. All these dimensions I am mentioning because that's how our idea of Swadeshi got hijacked in a specific direction and became a sort of misnomer with the concepts of autarkic approaches, of disconnecting with the world, which Atmanirbhar is trying to address. And that's where the partnerships with developing countries took us forward with concepts and with the approaches that are needed. In 1950s and 1990s, we find a greater bandwidth to define the concept of Atmanirbhar Bharat. The idea of mixed economy actually was going somewhere in that direction, where more and more of the Swadeshi Samaj of Tagore that was talked about, or Madras Swaraj magazine, where Masani wrote about the concept. Chakravarti Rajgopalachari was one of the first ones to have, in a way, warned us not to move in that direction of socialism and eventually ending up with permit license Raj, which Minu Masani and others through Swatantra Party, even B.R. Shenoy, warned us and reminded us of the downside that we were in. And eventually we did end up with the MRTP 1972, the Monopolies and Restrictive Trade Practice Act, or Exchange Violation Act, FERA. It is all a history now, but it is important to remind us that we could go in that direction, and that ended up with complications affecting the way our ideas are. Narasimha Rao's approach of 1991 changed this, and what Guru Charan Das described as part of our way forward was the phase of new Swadeshi movement that were coming in. And this is when the Tupan Tingri and his idea of Swadeshi Jagran Manch came in. They talked about the new approaches that are needed in Swadeshi and the idea of Hindu economics. One of the most famous leftist economists, M.G. Bokre, wrote this book of Hindu economics, where he defined how this idea of coexistence with industries, role of industrial enterprises in Indian economy was emphasized. Industries are not bad. They are part of our ecosystem. They are part of our spectrum for economic growth, was highlighted and was placed back. In fact, it is worth quoting here what Dr. Manmohan Singh said in 2009 at Seva Gram Vardha. I am not unambiguously attached to reforms. I feel that India has to compete with the rest of the world on its own strength. I am not enamored of India copying the Western consumption style. The challenge for us is how to pursue a growth strategy and prosper and become a modern self-sufficient country, even at a per capita income of $1,500. So this, I think, was extremely important. It was defined and taken forward by the process. In recent times with COVID-19 crisis, Prime Minister Modi said that the Swadeshi movement was taken us to another different level. And this is where the whole coping up with COVID-19 could become possible, because we decided to do things on our own. And the Atmanirbhar Bharat that was announced on 12th May 2020 brought in the concept of economy, infrastructure, vibrant demography, and demand. So these 5 pillars of Atmanirbhar Bharat take us forward with the supply chain reforms for agriculture, rational tax systems, simple and clear laws, capable human resources, and a strong financial system. So all these dimensions I'm mentioning because they are intrinsically linked with our idea of local production. And that probably is important in terms of how we define economic actors, the inter-firm cooperation, the mergers, etc., that are happening with the idea of Atmanirbhar Bharat and its distinctions from the Swadeshi process. It is also important for us here to realize that these processes have, in a way, created more competitive atmosphere, something that Rabindranath Tagore talked about, that even Dadabhai Naoroji talked about. And those dimensions are important for us to bring our system out of distortions, out of non-competitive frameworks, out of a place where market forces are not allowed to play their role. And it is because of this that we are ending up with huge challenge of non-localization. So it is important that Atmanirbhar Bharat brings in the idea of localization. And that localization is important from the point of view of local production of food that we are consuming. The carbon footprint of everyone drinking orange juice, because it's a Western practice of having continental breakfast with orange juice, whether you grow oranges or not, it doesn't matter. So you import juice. So Florida is a place from where orange juices are exported all across, and oranges come from Brazil to Florida. Florida doesn't grow so many oranges. So the carbon footprint of orange juice is huge. There are several studies that have quoted the carbon footprint of orange juice. So we should eat what we grow, and how we avoid this huge movement of containers, shapes, and compromise our dietary practices. They are extremely unfortunate. If Madhya Pradesh is growing kodo, kutki, and other millets, it is important that the people who are growing these varieties should have that as an option to eat. But our food production system has ended up in a situation where farmers grow wheat and paddy for urban markets and do not get chance to grow what they eat. And as a result, the millets, which were very much part of our systemic consumption, traditional style of consumption, has got compromised. And this is the reason why now the government has persuaded UN to celebrate a year of millet. But it is also a message to World Bank and other international institutions that have promoted green revolution and HYV varieties through financing mechanisms which have derailed local consumption patterns. And this is where we have derailed the idea of simplicity. This is where we have derailed the idea of sustainability. This is where we have also derailed spirituality, which is associated with local food production and local consumption. And that's where the food miles are important. We need to see how the greenhouse gases that are coming out. There is this study, Atul Jain has come out from University of Illinois, where they have showed how the total greenhouse gas emission, agriculture contributes, food production contributes 37%. We are also very clear in terms of how this is also in terms of how the animal production, the different crops, and the data they covered was from 2007 to 2013. So the carbon dioxide or the nitrous oxide, the production of that has contributed immensely in terms of how all of us are worried in terms of going forward. And it is not just the US or the World Bank, IMF. The Belt and Road Initiative, BRI, of China, or China buying lands in other countries, along with Saudi Arabia, where fresh water is coming in, is equally a matter of great concern. The lands are being purchased in Africa and other places. So climate crisis is very much intertwined, interlocked with the water crisis. It is in Arizona, it is prevalent how they can go up to 2,000 feet to get groundwater. And this is where the NASA's Gravity Recovery and Climate Experiment, GRACE mission, which was launched in 2002, this mission can actually show and demonstrate the water movement, the virtual water movement. Now, through wrong economic policies, EU and US both can get crops produced and dumped across countries, derailing local production. So wheat and rice and vegetables, almonds, etc., are being grown in the US and exported on concessional subsidized prices. So local production and the agriculture is getting affected. So we need to think about this idea of sustainability and take this forward. During Corona times, India came up with the idea and we coped up with this with local production. During 2 years of Corona, we could reduce our import dependence. With the idea of Atmanirbhar Bharat, India is trying to bring back the disruptions that have happened in supply chain and create supply chain from rural areas to urban areas. And that is taking us forward in terms of the new Swadeshi approaches. And friends and colleagues, it's important that we realize that Swadeshi approach or Swadeshi movement was not about boycotts. It was not about burning of clothes from other countries. It was about ourselves. It was about our own production structure, our own fight with modern invasive technologies. It is of HIVs and others, which international food systems have got in. It is a fight where we bring back the ideas that are important. And we would have to be alert. There are designs by some of our neighboring countries weaponizing monsoons, using weather data and weather interventions through their own satellites to derail monsoon and its arrival in India. There are these external forces which are playing with nature, but we are interconnected. Our ideas here are important. And that way, the idea of interlinkages are important. The challenges that are emanating out of our neighborhood, they are also important from the point of view of how we go forward. At COP26 in Glasgow, Prime Minister talked about the concept of life, where we bring in sustainability. Today, there is not enough time, but I would have also very much liked to raise the issue of alternative measures on which my institute and I'm personally working on in terms of alternative measures for GDP, because GDP is highly monetary-centric approach of 1930s, which Keynes gave us when world was grappling with global recession. The idea is how we measure wellness, how we see the well-being of people and their oneness with the nature that was just now mentioned in the morning talk. So I think the idea of SCP, sustainable consumption and production, there was a reference by Gaurang Das ji of responsible consumption and production. At my institute, RIS, we have developed the concept of sustainable consumption and production. And with the BRICS countries, we discussed this idea at length in terms of how we go forward with the concept of sustainable consumption and production. So if we have to go forward, sustainable consumption and production, the idea of simplicity and the idea of sustainability are very much part of it. India's forthright commitments at COP26, they give us the bandwidth to see how we bring in this sustainability with localization of production, with being vocal for local. The idea comes in with local production, and I think the time has come that we revisit our food miles, we revisit the idea of minimizing our consumption patterns and contributing in terms of how these linkages are going to be taken forward for us. I see that my time is already up. I would stop here and would be open for discussion. Thank you. Namaskar.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sachin Chaturvedi, for your talk on Swadeshi, Atmanirbhar and sustainability. We will take some questions in the next 5 minutes. So I have a question for you, that when we talk about Swadeshi and Atmanirbhar, people generally think that this will lead to isolation, that there are some countries which are far ahead of us in terms of technology. So people tend to think that we are missing out on that. So I think you brought out this point also in your talk, but I would like you to elaborate on this.
No, thank you. Thanks a lot, Mr. Srinivas. And as I was trying, we were working on developing the concept in a way that we are not cutting ourselves from the world. We are very much integrated in the world. We are very much part of the global production architecture. But it is important that we consume what is extremely essential for us. What is not essential, we should give up. And this is where the idea of reducing the food miles, not to consume things which we are not growing in that area. So no point in going in a village and asking for juices and food produce which is not localized. So how do we localize our diet? How do we localize our sourcing of food for the kitchen is important. And that miling that is there, the calculations that are there in the agriculture, food security, nutritional security zone is absolutely essential. The school of thought which emanated from Chicago, the monetarist school, has damaged our thought processes in terms of how we consume, how we react as a consumer, and how we react as a producer. So we have been made part of value chains. We have been made part of a global production architecture without realizing the cost at which these dimensions are being addressed, in what way we are going forward, in what way we are becoming part of this climate change that is affecting virtual movement of water, virtual movement of containers and ships and ship lanes affecting oceans. I think time has come when we realize the importance of some of these challenges. So I think it is important for us to appreciate the localization agenda, the Agenda 2030 of Sustainable Development Goals. Sustainable Development Goals can only be achieved if we localize our consumption and also ensure local production.
Thank you very much. I think it brings to my mind an analogy. This deer is there. It goes in search of musk, but it doesn't know that it's coming from its own body. I think you highlighted this very important point. It's very much essential for sustainability and simplicity and spirituality. We have one question from Vinay Kumar. So he's saying that in yesterday's talk, there was an idea of regrowth, or degrowth, actually degrowth. Is there any move to redefine growth or economic growth?
I think, as I was mentioning towards the end, there is a need to redefine not only the idea of growth, but also redefine the concept of development. India would be hosting the G20 summit next year, and we would be talking about the idea of development. I think COVID-19 crisis, the aggression in Ukraine have brought out the issues of how we redefine our parameters for economic development. Growth is a constituent of the effort for development. So it is not just growth or degrowth that we need. We actually need to revisit what we have to do with development. What kind of development we want, what kind of development we need, and what kind of development is sustainable given the kind of climate change crisis, with rising sea levels, with depleting glaciers. What is it that we need? What we are doing here in oceans is actually affecting Himalayan region. So what is happening in Indian Ocean is affecting Himalayan region, the acidic rains that are coming in. So we need to bring this water cycle back, protect the water cycle, protect the oceans. And if that is part of degrowth, perfectly fine. But we need to redefine the concept of development.
Thank you very much. Just one last question maybe. This from Dr. Severin. So can you explain some more on the proposed alternatives to contemporary capitalism?
No, definitely. The contemporary capitalism is revisiting itself in various different ways. If in this whole contestation of socialism and capitalism, if socialism has been squeezed off in some form or the other, it has embraced capitalism, and capitalism has embraced socialism. So you find that the idea of Hindu economics, the idea of third way that Tengri talked about, is in terms of taking the whole concept forward with both the private and the public sector together. And the idea of alternative capitalism is not by capitalist forces alone. The idea is about taking the elements of creating the global public goods, creating structures which are bringing everyone together. The US idea of economic growth by leaving millions behind is not sustainable, and US is realizing it. Europe is realizing it, the high cost of social security. So what we have done, we have broken families and we have nationalized the family system. That is the big loss we have done. So in India, during the COVID crisis, we saw how families, society, community took care of itself. Government was nowhere. Industry was nowhere. It's the community that took care. That has been our strength. So we need to revisit that again, I think. And that's the new capitalism. That's the alternative capitalism, where we bring in community together, where we bring in people together, where we bring all together as part of the production architecture.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sachin Chaturvedi. This discussion during the question answer session was as fruitful as the presentation you made. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
We would like to move on to the next speaker.
Please, thank you.
So next we will hear from Dr. Anaga Mathur from Parul Institute of Ayurveda and Research. And the topic is the secrets of Shodasha Samskara, or 16 Samskaras in simple and spiritual living. I would like to, Dr. Anaga Mathur is from Parul Institute of Ayurveda Research and Research.
Yes. Good morning, sir. Good morning, one and all. Am I audible, sir?
Yes.
Yes.
Can maximize the presentation.
Yes, sir. I'm Dr. Anaga Mathur, working as an assistant professor in the Department of Ayurveda, Samhita and Siddhanta in the Parallel Institute of Ayurveda and Research, Vadodara, Gujarat. I am very much thankful to all the organizers who have given opportunity to present my views on the secrets of Shodasha Samskara in the simple and the spiritual living. The Shodasha Samskaras are the 16 ritual ceremonies or the things which are followed from the Vedic aspects or from the Vedic period till now, which gives the impacts for the every person, how it is also acquired by the modern science also we will see. So introduction, the Shodasha Samskaras, which are having the references from the Manusmriti and other Darshanikas, And the samskaras are the one which shows the way of the life, both in the cultural well-being and the spiritual well-being. In the cultural well-being, the variety of rites and rituals related to samskaras help in the formation and the development of one personality. According to the seers, the samskaras impart higher values to the life, which removes the impurities which is associated with the material body and eradicate the other mental deformities. Then the Shodasha samskaras at the different age. Prenatal samskaras including Garbhadana samskara, Pumsamana samskara, Simanto Nayana. And during childhood, the samskaras involve Jata Karma, Nama Karana, Nishkramana, Annaprashana, Chuda Karma, Karnavida. And the educational samskaras include Vidyarambha, Upanayana, Vedarambha, Keshanta, Samavartana. And the marriage is one of the samskara coming at the 15th one. And the last one is the death samskara, which is called as Anteshti samskara. So what these are actually Shodasha samskaras, we will see one by one. The Garbhadana samskara is the one which is performed after the marriage to the couples to get the good conceived fetus or the progeny, or by doing the chanting the hymns and performing the homa. In this homa also, for the female, the herbal drugs which will be processed in the form of the liquids and that will be poured inside the nostrils. And the homa will also act as a purificatory factors for the both. Then Pumsamana Vidhi, here also soon after the conception, within 45 days or within 50 days of the period of the pregnancy, the 2 drops or the 3 drops prepared from the herbal medicines along with the milk, it will be poured by using the silver or the gold items through to the nostrils of the female. Then Simanto Nayana, which is done during the 8th or the 7th month of the pregnancy for the safe delivery and also to get the good health for the child and the mother. Then Jata Karma, these are the procedures which are performed for the newborn baby, where some of the hygiene maintaining procedures are explained. And when we, for example, when we have to touch the newborn baby, the one should wash the hand and the feet before entering to that room. And also they have given certain specified suvarna with the preparation with the honey based preparation. Just 1 drop should be given to the newborn baby soon after the birth, so that it will cure certain impurities which occur during the labor time. And also it will provide the nourishment for the newborn baby. Then the Namakarana, the identification of the baby, and which will be giving important aspects for identify that person and help for the physical and the mental growth and development. Annaprashana, this is also one type of a samskara where you will be giving the first time weaning for the baby by performing the puja for the your own god. Then Nishkramana, the first time taking out the baby from the home. Karnavedana Samskara, piercing the ears for the baby, which gives the protection and also provides the attraction for the baby's face. Then Chuda Karma, the first time cutting the hairs of the baby. Then Aksharabhyasa, the initiation of the study, alphabetical study, which will be done at the age of 4 to 6 years. Then Upanayana, after 6 years, the Vedic studies initiation will begin by doing the thread ceremony. Then Samavartana, the graduation, the completion of the Vedic studies. That means the person already studied and he is able to perform any individual or under any guru to perform the homa and all. Then Vivaha, it is one of the most important. Vivaha is one of the most important samskara at the age of after 25 to 26, which will be including of Pancha Mahayagna, where the couples will be performing the honors to the god, guru, and etc. Then Vanaprastha samskara, the one which will be following the brahmacharya at the age of more than 55 years. Then Anteshti, the funeral rites. Then the objectives of the Shodasha Samskara. The 16 main purificatory ritual ceremony or the rite marking a major event in the one's life. The Samskara helps to maintain the health and also acts as the behavioral traits. In every Samskara, there is a transformation of positive energy towards the human being from the conception to the death. These will protect the human beings from negative feeling and prevent the upcoming diseases. The methods here is from the compilation method. As we know, the Sharira is made up of the Stula Deha, Sukshma Deha, Aniruddha Deha, and the Linga Deha. The Stula Deha will be made up of the Panchabhautika Sharira, Sukshma Deha included of the Manas and Indriyas, Aniruddha Deha will be including of the Trigunatmaka Ahankarika Dravyas, and the Linga Deha involves of the Sukshma, that is a Sukshma soul, what we will call, that is the Atma. These samskaras having the power to radiate the positive energy from Stula to the Linga Deha as explained in Bhagavata and also in the Harikatamrita Sara. The koshas, which are called as the sheath, which is having the reference from Taittiriya Upanishad. These are 5 in number, hence called as Panchakosha, involves the Annamaya Kosha, the outermost kosha, referring to the physical body which needs the food and nourishment to the thrive, which can be attained by practicing the asana, by following the proper dietary changes, and by getting the proper sleep, quality sleep will impact the Annamaya Kosha. Then Pranamaya Kosha, the sheath of the vital life force energy, closely connected with the Annamaya Kosha. This sheath is responsible for animating the physical body, and it is composed for the prana and is greatly influenced by the pranayama. Then Manomaya Kosha, the mental or the physiological sheath, referring to the aspect of the mind which governs the perception of the world. The mindfulness is the most effective way of influencing the Manomaya Kosha. Then Vijnanamaya Kosha, the sheath is the seat of intuition connected to the inner wisdom and deeper seats of the consciousness. And it is responsible for the inner growth and authenticity and impact by the aspects of the yogas. Then Anandamaya Kosha, bliss sheath, otherwise known as the bliss body. This kosha is the closest to the Atma. By practicing the meditation daily, the one can connect to the Anandamaya Kosha. These koshas also well nourished with the help of samskaras. How means after Upanayana, the consumption of food is having the restriction for the everyone. As the consumption of food is considered as one of the yajna, and each bolus what we will have, it will be considered as the havis which is giving for the yajna, and this havis will be nourishing the different parts of the body. And this will avoid many physical and the mental disease by not having the food in the wrong place, and also the one should not take the food frequently in a daytime and in the improper timing also. And always we have to take the sattvika food which is already offered to the god. The impact of food on our body, as we know, there are 3 gunas, sattva, raja, tama. The sattva will be having the positive energy with a pure mind and the pleasure and the divine, while the rajas will be having the controlling, mixed, selfish desires, human. And the tamas quality will be having the negative, impure, pain and demonic thinking in the person. The positive or the negative thoughts of the chef, cook, affects the mind of a person who consumes it. Is it right or not? We will see in the further. Yes, it affects. Suppose we are eating at a hotel and the chef or the server or the manager at the hotel is indulging in the anger, hatred, or any other negative thoughts. The qualities, those who are these qualities will be imparted on the food that we will consume or we will eat. So those mental qualities will get injected in our mind when we will consume such type of the food. For this reason, the epitome of spirituality, Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, used to cook his own simple food and eat, and his mind was concentrated in goddess Kalima. According to modern science, the emotions of the one who prepares the food affects its qualities and consumers' health. In 1990, the Masuru Emoto, a Japanese author and the researcher who has done a research on the effects of different energies and thoughts on the water. His findings discovered that the human energy and the consciousness affects the water molecule structure. The The results of his experiment showed that the positive thoughts, words, prayers produces the harmonious crystal formation in the water and even in the cleanless polluted water. The negative thoughts and the feeling produce fragmented, disharmonious crystal formations. As his study shows, there are the different molecular structures of the water, where in the right side you are having the properly arranged fragmented water molecules with the positive thoughts, and the left side the disintegrated water molecules with the negative thoughts. The observations on the Shodasha Samskara at the different stage of life. In the prenatal Samskara, according to Ayurveda also, the couples will be prepared with a certain procedures by following the Garbhadana Samskara and the Pumsamana Vidhi to get the healthy conception. And according to modern science also, nowadays in a hospital, the preconceptional analysis will be done by following the certain diagnostic tools and also the diagnostic lab investigations. Then childhood samskaras, which helps for the healthy growth and the development of the age. According to modern science also, nowadays the particular age and the particular syllabus will be fixed for the according to the age wise and also the IQ of the child. Then the educational samskara helps to gain the knowledge, and according to modern science also, there is the brain cells are having the capacity to get the education at the particular age. Then the marriage considered to be a systematic life in the society and a bonding to maintain the life for the peaceful life. Then the death, the Panchamabhuta Sharira Samskara will have the tribute to the body and soul, while the cremation of the body includes. Results, hence the Shodasha Samskara we should follow properly in the daily life for the betterment of the simple and the spiritual life, but not for the name and fame of the one-day ceremony celebration purpose. These will stimulate and nourish the Panchakoshas of the body, control the mind, and helps to gain the spiritual values in the life. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Anaga Mathur. Another very relevant and important subject you have brought up, that without samskara, we remain as animals. So we would like to take some questions from the chat. So Mr. Vinay Kumar is asking that to explain the benefit regarding samskara for women and for Varnashrama Shudra. Did you hear my question?
Yes, sir. For female, the except the Chuda Karma and the Upanayana, other whatever the samskaras there, they can be performed. Because usually in the ritual, they are not done for the females.
So he wants me to read the entire text of his question, that kindly explain for our benefit regarding samskara for women and for Varnashrama Shudra, as per the Bahudayana, Grihastha Sutra and Yama Smriti. As we all know, everyone is born as Shudras, and in this age mostly all are Shudras in the absence of proper samskaras.
But nowadays, everyone started to following this all the samskaras, sir, to adopting the samskaras as much as possible as the rituals only.
Thank you. There's a question from Dr. Nandita Gupta. What precautions should the mother take for grown-up children?
For grown-up children, the practicing of the meditation, practicing the yoga, and also cultivating the positive thoughts in the grown-up children to avoid the further negative behavior or the traits in the children.
So there's one question which arises, whether these samskaras are practical in the modern age, and if they are being practiced, maybe it is in a compromised version of the original. So would you like to share some of your thoughts on this?
Yes, sir. Nowadays they are practiced as a ceremonies for the one day only. But we will, if we will follow in the day-to-day life, whatever the ceremonies are done, then whatever the follow-ups are given after the ceremonies, then surely it will be having the good impact on the health for the physical and the mental health both, sir.
Thank you very much. I think there are no further questions. They are very relevant topic on the Shodasha Samskara. very important topic, and with a shortage of time, because I hope
Thank you, sir.
the audience benefited.
Thank you, sir.
We'll move on to the next speaker. Okay, so the next speaker is Dr. Pratik Negi, Wesley Weed College of Information Technology, Dehradun. His topic is on cultural heritage as psychogeographical co-production from temples to rivers and urbanism. So that is his topic. I think it's a video presentation. I repeat, Dr. Pratik Negi from the Wesley Weed College of Information Technology, Dehradun, is speaking on cultural heritage as psychogeographical co-production from temples to rivers and urbanism. So I request the host to please play the video.
A very good morning to everyone. Today in this presentation, I'll be talking about the cultural heritage as a psycho-geographical co-production from temples to rivers and urbanism. So this is basically about how the culture of any place, and especially the religious and spiritual features like temples, shape the urban culture of any particular place. So let's start with the first aspect of it, that is the maps of meaning. The Shiv temple at the peak of Lal Tibba, Mussoorie, marks the origin of the contributory water for both Yamuna and Ganga in form of Aglad and Rispana respectively. This is a very unique point in the Himalayas where a single origin marks the birth of the waters from both Yamuna and Ganga before their ultimate confluence at northern plains at Prayagraj. Such claims about the place still in the process of scientific study, as mentioned by National Institute of Hydrology. Recent works to rejuvenate the river Rispana are being under consideration, but need more academic and geomorphologic studies before any significant changes. Hence, the term cultural geomorphology has recently been proposed by Ken Gregory to encompass cultural reactions to and perceptions of landscape and how these should be considered by geomorphologists, especially in terms of improving environmental management. Where river waters are of religious significance, such as in parts of India, river management strategies need to take this into account. Such cultural dimensions are also vital to successful conservation of landscapes. The academic significance of such studies are being cited in the works of Peter Jackson in his work Maps of Meaning, written in cultural geographical settings. When Jordan Peterson published his Maps of Meaning, he clarified the cultural settings play an important role in shaping the mental maps and meaning associated with them. Moreover, Nick Blomley and Josephine Gillespie call for more aggressive legal activism to rejuvenate such cultural features in their array of foundational works on legal geography. Focusing on the European model of river rejuvenation, we must talk about the way the cultural aspects play a major role in not just conserving but also in management of geomorphological phenomena. A key aspect is mentioned by Ken Gregory in his concept of cultural geomorphology. Focusing on such aspect, Gregory aptly put the religion at the center. In India, where the people literally worship the rivers, it is of utmost importance that administration has started focusing on the theological and mythological aspects to envisage the urban planning and river management. The example of river Thames and Rhine are the prime instances where the urban ecology was shaped in such a way that the political will acted as a prime mover to rejuvenate the rivers. If we closely focus on the conditions of river Rispana, which was declared as a tributary for the river Ganges by the Ministry of Environment, Forestry and Climate Change, only when the Chief Minister of Uttarakhand started the Rispana Rejuvenation Project. By virtue of this privilege, the river falls under the administrative provisions of Namami Gange Pariyojana, that is a policy of rejuvenation and cleaning of river Ganga. This policy is being functioned by the Ministry of Water Resource, River Development and Ganga Rejuvenation. Moreover, the High Court of Uttarakhand also has granted the holy river Ganga a special status of holding the fundamental rights as of any citizen of India, that is to say, that a writ petition can be filed regarding the fundamental rights of Ganges with Chief Secretary of Uttarakhand being legal custodian of the Ganga. This aspect of legal geography is enchanted in the writings of Josephine Gillespie is a key lesson from the European counterparts in having the natural resources as the human being status and the children of the Mother Earth. The river Rispana is now being highlighted as the holy river, and gradually the people started realizing the importance of the river. A marked place, more precisely a Shiv temple, happens to be the origin of the river Rispana. National Institute of Hydrology holds the statement as being open to further scientific study regarding this origin. The deity Shiv, as being mentioned in the Hindu mythology, holds the origin of river Ganges within his locks on his head. Lendore in Mussoorie is a very religious place holding many sectarian churches, temples, etc. Hence, the administration holding key attributes in maintaining the focal point revolving around the Gregory's cultural geomorphological concept. The temples mentioned below has been endowed with the revenue from some of the villages in the valley from the days of Gadwali rulers. These endowments were honored by Nepalese people. They were the Badrinath temple at village Dobalwala, Kedarnath temple at Prempur and Jharkhand, Bharat Mandir in Rishikesh and Tapovan, and Gorakhnath temple in Jogiwala and Gorakhpur. In those days, the limits of village Dobalwala extended up to Gadi, where the present cantonment is situated. A part of this village was taken on lease by British government to build the new cantonment, and annual rental is paid to the Badrinath Temple Committee by the Government of India. Recently, a couple of lakhs of rupees were paid as arrears of rent as well. In the northwestern Europe, towns arose around the episcopal and royal residences, political and administrative centers, and even around the feudal castles. Apart from being centers of religio-political authority, economic production, and commercial transactions, towns were also places where culture was constantly recreated and propagated. This cultural role of urban centers had political implications. In the pre-industrial city, educational and religious organizations were particularly important means by which the elite exercised social control, and it is hardly surprising that the heart of the city functioned as the center of both governmental and religious activity. There are therefore some things specific to urban centers, and among these, Lufogwar argues, is the fact that they are situated between the near order and the far order. The city, to quote him, is a mediation among mediations. When it comes to the governance, which is markedly involving in the process of intensive research relating to the theological origin, there are more chances that response from public would be an intriguing one because of the involvement of spirituality and faith in the process of bringing the ecological change. The process of governmentality hence tries to bring together the elements of biopolitics. Here it is not about what the power-driven governance want from the population, but it is about what the population want from the governance in relation to the subconscious interplay of spirituality and positivistic tendencies of being in the empirical life world. The gentrification in Uttarakhand largely revolves around the religiosity and culture largely driven by the forces of geopolitical importance. The interlink of politics and economics hence pushes the governance to extract the intended goals of the governmentality through biopolitics. This biopolitics intrinsically put the Homo legalis, Homo economicus and Homo sapient into a complete alignment of achieving the targeted objectives of the administrative governance. The Homo legalis would always crave for the subconscious objectives of attaining the good governance. In process, the Homo economicus would try to bring the change through urbanism-driven gentrification. The reinvestment and the disinvestment, including the structures of the theological importance, would then try to bring this change in accordance with the established maxims of the Homo sapient. Biopolitics would slowly transform itself into the micro-regional aspects of geopolitics. As in the case of Uttarakhand, the river rejuvenation project would be readily believed to have the characteristics of appeasing the general will of the voters. More significantly, the spatial organization of the Homo legalis, her or his desires, her or his judicial activism to bring about the juridical changes in relation to the infrastructural governance would always play a major role in good governance.
Thank you very much. That was a presentation by Pratik Negi on cultural heritage as psycho-geographical co-production from temples to rivers and urbanism. I think he's around, so if you would like to address any questions, he's willing to do so, and if there are comments or questions, please address it. As you can see, temples are like the heart and the rivers are like the blood flow. So when the heart shrinks or there's no flow of blood, then the body becomes weak. So that is the present scenario, and this is a very important topic he has addressed. Okay, if he's not there, then we'll go to move on to the next speaker. So we invite Monisha Ghosh, and she will present on the Sri Yantra and the Hindu temple plan.
Namaskar, everyone. My co-author will be present along with me. She is Dr. Tanisha Datta. So first I will start, and she will present the screen so that we can both speak along with the papers. Okay. So welcome everyone for listening our papers. So can you please start?
In the meantime, would you like to introduce both of yourselves?
Yeah.
Yes, I'm able to unmute now. Yes. Monisha ji, you can begin.
Okay. Myself, Monisha Ghosh. I'm an assistant professor in an engineering college. I am actually from the electronics background, and along with me, Dr. Tanisha Datta is here, who is already having her doctorate degree in architecture. So basically, he will, in this presentation, the Hindu temple plans part will be explained by her, and I will be introduced with the Sri Yantra and its aspects are in life, and as long as what are the implications of the Sri Yantra and what are the parts of the Sri Yantra, that will be explained by me. So continuing with that part, so what is basically the Sri Yantra and why we are choosing this type of yantra first? So that's the very implicate part that when we are talking about the yantras, so first we have to know that the yantras are the things which actually in form of the idols which are present in the temples, so that we can see. But actually what the form of the deity and what are the geometric representations of the deity, and how we can drive the mantra, and how we can actually get the benefits of getting that the power of the deity, the positive energies from the deity. So that implication, for that particular implications, we can consider the yantras. So yantras are the basically the geometric forms of the power or the supreme divine power. So when or we can say it like this way, that yantras are the like of vehicles, and these vehicles will drive through the mantras, and some tantras is there. So from this vehicle as perspective, as well as from this mantra perspective, so we can both can have this yantra and the mantra, and finally we get the tantra, that how we can worship the deity. So being this part, we can say that in Sanskritam, yantra means the vehicle through which we can channelize our offering to the respective divine power. While yantras are actually like an antenna. What is an antenna? We all know that the antenna kind of things are, or it can be a receiver or it can be a transmitter. So where we can implicate this antennas are this part we can see in the mobile phones, which is quite invisible for us because it is inbuilt inside the mobile phone. So likewise, here's the examples, like antennas are either the receiver or the transmitter part. So this receiver and the transmitter part through which we can connect to the cosmos. So this channelized energy or this cosmic energy which is connected through us is a form of the yantra. So now we can say that the first or the most oldest form of the Sri Yantra, which we can find in the Sringeri Mott by Adi Shankaracharya, which is a golden piece of the Sri Yantra, which is mentioned in our paper. And now when we are considering this yantra, so why the Sri Yantra? So there is an enormous effect or the positive effect when we are talking about the Sri Yantra. Actually, as I mentioned, that this yantras are the geometric representations of the deities, right? So there are basically three kind of yantras through which we can call upon deity or we can worship on the deity. So first is called the mandala patterns, which is the 2D representations of the yantra. Then the three-dimensional form of the yantra, which is known as the Meru. And the third is, which is known as the Shankhaya Yantra, which is the numerical patterns. So we will here in our paper, we basically consider the 2D patterns, which is called the mandala patterns or the Sri Yantra patterns. And in this slide, which is presented here, it is already written here that the Sri Chakra, which is also known as the Sri Yantra, is an important tool which is used to worship on the primordial energy. And it is also caused the creation, maintenance, and destructions of the cosmos. So where is the connectivity of the cosmology and the Sri Yantra? That I will explain you now. So here you can see on the right hand side figure, which is mentioned as the previous slide, please. From there I can previous slide. Yeah. So here we can see there are basic fewer steps which when we are drawing the Sri Yantra or when we are represent the Sri Yantras. So when we are first we can see from where from the outer diameter or outer squares, which is also known as the Bhupura. So these Bhupuras are the basic gates. Okay, there are 4 entry of the gates, and from the outer 2 inward directions we can follow up the Sri Yantra. So outer directions, which is known as the Bhupura, which is basically 3 parallel lines are drawn at the outer terminals. And these parallel lines are so profound and so much specific space, and the each and every line with each other having a particular space and equal space to each other, so that no other directions or other diameter can be considered. And each and every angle of the particular 2 lines having a certain angles, that from the center, which is the bindu, and towards if we are going outwards, so that will considered as a 90 degree, and the corners is at particularly perfectly, if you are drawing this, then it is at the 45-degree angles. So there is certain rules to draw the Sri Yantra so that we can have the full positive energy within us. And next inward part, when we are considering, so this inward part, we can see that the Trivalaya part, which is the circular part. So considering from this circle, this consists of triad, that is the 3 triangles from the outer terminals to the inner walls. Tanisha ji, can you please mark on this the outer 3 circles? Yeah. Before the lotus petals, these 3 circles. Yeah, these three consecutive circles, which is the which having actually the same center at the bindu, and it is not considered as a one of the 9 chakras, which we can say that the Sri Yantra can consider the 9 chakras in our life also. So this Trivalaya is not seen in some of the Sri chakras. So especially in the Haranagiva creations, that is also not considered in the Shankaracharya's mud, that is Shringari mud, that the Sri Chakra is having not Trivalayas. So next, I am going to the next part, which is known as the Sarasadhara Padma, that is the circle with the 16 lotus petals. So when we are talking about the circles with the 16 lotus petals, then we can say that these 16 lotus petals are having 16 type of meanings. That what are the meanings in very brief manner, we can say. First, there are 10 considerations, which 10 petals considered as 10 organs of the perceptions and the actions, like tongue, nose, mouth, skin, eyes, ears, feet, hands, arms, and the respiratory organs. And next 5 circles, next 5 petals, which is considered as the 5 elements. That means the earth, water, fire, air, and space. And the last, the 16 petals of this, the Sarasadhara Padma. So this circles with the 16 lotus part, it is considered as a mind. So you can, from here, you can have a look or have a consideration that this 16 petals is actually, which is connected us with the concept of the mind and the body perspective. And next, when we are moving to the Ashtadala Padma, then here the 8 petals or the 8 petals along with the circles, it is the innermost circles is an angular ring, where these equal petals having another aspects of life, and this 8 petals have along with this having the another perspectives of life. Now this first we can say that this 8 chakras or the 8 petals actually are the 7th chakra of our life. And now when we are moving towards the bindu, then after that I am considering the innermost triangles. So we all know that the center circles, which are having the 9 interlocking triangles. Okay, and these 9 interlocking triangles made 6 group of 43 triangles. Okay, so these are whole interlocking triangles. So these inner triangles have total of 43 triangles, and there are 4 upward triangles specified, and then 5 downward triangles are specified. So when we are talking about the upward triangles, these upward triangles are basically the representations of the Purusha, that is the divine main powers. And then when we are considering the downward triangles, then these downward triangles are representations of the Prakriti, which is the power or energy of the feminine divinity. And now when we are talking about the center portion, that is the bindu, and this bindu is the most powerful one, where the interlocking triangles are emerged their energies with each other, and from this bindu point of view and the center of the bindus, the whole energy of the Sri Yantra, we are coming out from there, because this is the like the where we consider the 6 hexagonal stars. So that from the upward triangles and the downward triangles, where the total energy of the divinity, the feminine energy and the masculine energy in fully considered inside this. So this is all about the considerations of the 43 interlocking triangles, where there are 6 group presence. I will just tell you that what are the 6 groups. The outermost of the triangles having the 14 triangles inside this 43 patterns. So this the Chatura Dashara, and which is marked as a Sandhi in Sandhi. And then when we are going inside it, that is a group of 10 triangles inside this 43 triangles, which is known as the Bahadashara, which is marked as a Marma. And then when we are moving towards it, that means inner again 10 triangles, which is the Antadharashara, which is, and lastly the 8 triangles are left from the 43 triangles. So this is the Ashtakona, which is known as, and then innermost triangle, there is one left. If you are able to consider it, this is the downward triangle. So when we are talking about the downward triangles, the lastmost triangle, so it is actually the power of the divinity. So this is all, and it is also known as the yoni. And the bindu is considered as the 0th form of the triangle. So this is the most powerful explanations of the Sri Yantra, what is depicted about the 43 triangles. So next slide, please. Nishadi, next slide, please. Yeah. From there are various kind of Sri Yantra. We are here considering only the Tripura Sundari Sri Yantra. And when we are talking about the Tripura Sundari Sri Yantra, the perfect chant which we can work upon, or which we can worship upon, the Sri Yantra is the Devi Khadgamala Stotram, where Khadgamala Stotram, where it is a hymn of the great mother, Devi Khadgamala. So where the Khadga means the sword and the Mala means the girdle, and the Stotra means we all know the hymns or how we can chant the mantras. So the Stotra says that the Devi's best thou on the garland of the sword upon those who recites it. So that means when we are perfectly chanting the mantra in a Sanskritam on a very good language way, so then we can get the benefits of worshipping on the Sri Yantra. And then after that in this extraordinary Khadgamala Sotram, we can mention is one of the all Devi of the Sri Yantras are present. So here in details, if you are going to that, then all the form of the deities are there, and each and every triangle represent the excuse me, the Meru, the worshipping of the Mahat Tripura Sundari, the great mother, and then the cosmos, how it is connected to the 9 triangles and the 9 levels of the energies, or the higher state of energies. So this can we can consider as a chanting of the Khadgamala Stotra. So next slide, please. So from there, the Khandariya Mahadeva temple, how they are the depictions of the Sri Yantra. So that part will be represented by Dr. Tanisha. Thank you.
Namaskar, everyone. At this point that we know some background of the geometry of the Sri Yantra, I will now start to elaborate our case study, that is Khandariya Mahadev Temple, Khajuraho. This was the case study selected to experiment basically how the Sri Yantra plan and the temple plans correlate or coordinate with each other to give these profound, beautiful images. So before we start with the actual geometrical analysis, I wanted to introduce everyone to the amazing structure Khandariya Mahadev is. These are just some of the images showing the beautiful tower, the amazing elevations, the beautiful jaggedness on the surface of the elevation, amazing subdivision techniques that have been used. There is concentric progression, repetition, scaling, framing. All of these amazing design concepts have been applied. Here as well, deep and shallow cornices and niches and frames have been employed to create this amazing light and shade and dynamic effect, even though the whole structure has been done in a single color. Here, every cornice is detailed as per surrounding setting, and surrounding setting would mean the theme, the size, the geometry, the scale at which it has been created. All of these concepts have been employed, and after that, what has to be employed in each has been decided. Just like the bottom left image, I'll just give you a short summary of where I'm going with this. Is we can clearly see the bottommost portion. I'll highlight this particular portion. I think we can clearly see that these are waves, right? They're formed in the form of waves, but one wave is maybe, you know, in this direction, and the other is mirror image in the opposite direction, correct? So this is how this has been formed, and these are all very basic design principles that have been employed in this temple scenario. After that, this symbolizes the surface of water. So we have waves, then we have the surface of water, and obviously the lotus petals are right above the surface of water. So this is what I mean when I say that, you know, all the sculptures and the details have been decided as per the location, the size, and surrounding of it. Also, each panel has been created through vertical and horizontal grid pattern, along with the jaggedness kept intact. So these are absolutely iconic sculptures from Khajuraho, Khandaria Mahadev. The stair details from these jagged ends. This is the image I'm talking about, the bottom left image, which is, you know, it's not just a staircase to reach somewhere. The staircase also is part of the journey and part of the experience, right? Here also, this is just a skyline image where the non-smooth forms are very easily visible, which gives a very dynamic skyline. It creates the natural organic rhythm that we are all, you know, we all await in the temple context, unlike modern architecture actually. And this is just a few views of the interior ambience. The sculptures, the themes used have very high philosophical meanings with respect to which themes have been used. The outermost plinth has mostly generally in all temples across India have been employed for very mundane and base desire concepts. And as we progress as we walk through the stages of the temple, that is from the Ardha Mandapa to the Mandapa, Mahamandapa, Antarala, and Garbhagriha, as we progress through this journey, we are mentally, we basically graduate to higher levels. So mentally, if we have to graduate, the sculptures around us have to direct us likewise. So these are the sculptures, and these are the effects, and these are the sizes and shapes of temples and materials and colors of temples. All of these aspects actually impact our mind so that we graduate through these levels. These are the basic plans and elevation of the Khandaria Mahadev temple. I'll go into slightly more detail with the plan now. Basically, when we talk about geometry, now we are coming to actually talking about Sri Yantra and the temple plans together. So when we talk about geometry, there are many, many concepts that have been employed in this temple scenario. And all these terms are relatively very, very new. This is very modern terms: sacred geometry, biomimicry, fractals, shapes, patterns, number theories. This is all very new, but as I say, temple architecture always intrigues me by the sheer fact that whatever new theory we come up with, temple architects and sthapatis have already employed it, used it in temple construction. So there are no really new theories. We just have to understand temples a bit more. There have been many papers which have highlighted the beautiful jaggedness and tried to describe them through various theories. Also, fractals is another very important theory that has been fruitfully used to explain this temple context. But the basic question remains, why use jaggedness or fractals? So that is essentially because fractals is a theory concept with which our brain connects very easily, because as some of you may know that our brain structure and our physical body structure and all nature around us is fractal in nature, it's fractal in geometry. That is how we can describe it. So when we talk about this jaggedness, how do we create jaggedness in man-made structures? We basically must start with Vastupurush Mandala, which is also not a standard Vastupurush Mandala that most people talk about nowadays. It is very specific to the land where we develop any particular structure. It is specific to the person who's patronizing this particular structure. It is specific to the season, and all of these ideas have to be incorporated before we create a Vastupurush Mandala. Now, after the square diagram has been created, there are essentially energy centers. These energy centers are under the pyramids. So this is an accepted geometrical concept that pyramids can sequestrate proper energies in correct centers. So here what is happening is, if the center is high energy point, then the energy starts to radiate or tries to radiate, and in this process it tries to push little boxes outside. So in this Vastupurush Mandala, we can see multiple boxes, and we see how in this top left diagram we can see how the red arrows show the emanating energy, or the energy pushing these boxes outside. So gradually what happens is these boxes are pushed outside, and once multiple times, once many iterations are done for this particular process, these are the kind of temple plans we arrive at. Now, after this is done, how do we now come back to the Sri Yantra and the temple plan? So Sri Yantra is also, as Monisha ji has already explained, is a basic energy center, with the center point being the highest energy and the highest deity, and the four corners have been projected beautifully on the basis of the concept I just explained, that is the energy emanating from the center. So now when we correlate these two plans, I'll just show you a little GIF so that we understand how ripples form in water, because this is the basic concept I will be using. If you notice, there's a little pyramid or cone, if I may put it, is formed at the center, and this is how the energies are emanating. Now, if I show you this diagram, it will make much more sense that I will have two energy centers, because I have two main shikharas here. One is the main one over the Garbhagriha. The other one will be over the Mandapa. So let me just highlight here quickly. This is the Garbhagriha portion, and this is the Mandapa portion. Now since I have two shikharas and two energy centers, I will superimpose 1 and 2 Sri Yantras on this area. Also, if you notice on the left diagram, I have introduced another tiny small Sri Yantra at the entrance as well, because the Ardha Mandapa, which is the main entrance, it is much smaller in size and height in plan and elevation, but nevertheless, it has a pyramidal roof over it. So on the right side diagram, I think it becomes very clear how I have superimposed these three areas on the temple plan and then try to understand how it is behaving. Now, when I superimposed this, the first thing I noticed was this overlapping portion. Do you see this overlapping portion of the two Sri Yantras? Now, superimposing was one part of it, because we already know that there's a Shikhara, it is pyramidal in shape, it is sequestrating energy, and Garbhagriha and Mahamandapa are high energy centers, there is no doubt in it. But what about these overlapping areas? So how do we deal with that? So that is where our investigation further started, that now if you look at this image, I think again, it becomes very clear that if I have one Shikhara at this point and one Shikhara at this point, this is where I'm overlapping the two energy vibrations or emanations. So when the energy is emanating outside, there is one point where it is actually colliding with each other and clashing with each other and merging with each other. So this merging, we all know every action has an equal and opposite reaction, and energy is generated likewise. So these little portions in the center where the collision actually happens are also high energy centers in a different way. Now, how is this relevant to us? If you now notice, there is one more layer of interpretation, and then I'll come back to the collision of the energy. I have also divided see, initially here in the left diagram, if we see, these were squares, right? And after the projections have been made, it sort of changes its shape to the rotated square, right? This is what is happening here. So once I have received this, I have tried to understand these triangles with respect to Purusha, shown in the blue triangles, and Prakriti, shown in red triangle. So I've placed 2 Purushas and 2 Prakritis here. And now, again, if you notice, we have this beautiful overlapping region. This is the region that we have as overlap. Now, with respect to this previous image that we saw and these overlaps, we can now easily conclude that the Antarala, which is the connection or the transition area between the Mahamandapa or the Mandapa and the Garbhagriha, is a very beautiful dynamic energy center. Why is this relevant? Because I'm sure most of you know that in most temples, we do not enter the Garbhagriha. In many temples, we stand at the transition area, Antarala, and experience the, and take darshan and experience from there. So therefore, this Antarala becomes a very, very important point of experience rather than the actual center point of the Garbhagriha. Center point of the Garbhagriha is emanating the energy, but for us visitors and for us bhakts, we are experiencing that from this particular point, that is the transition area. So this was the overall essence that we found out through this particular little study. So the above discussion highlights the importance of Sri Yantra as the guiding geometry for temple architecture, which we've already elaborated. The logic and rationale behind this application is quite evident. The energy centers were studied to understand the importance of the function and temple experience. So everything comes down to experience. Finally, from the above study, it was also concluded that the overlapping geometry achieved from the overlapped Sri Yantras not only reinforced the energy centers, but also gave concrete form to the transition areas, which I was just explaining, making them energy clashing centers. And these clashes or intersections create spaces which have dual direction pull and push. This is the dual direction pull and push, creating a high experience for the visitor. Since the visitors mostly do not enter the Garbhagriha, as I've already was saying, this Antarala or transition space is the location standing at which darshana takes place. The visual darshana, along with the energy vibration, creates the holistic impact that is the temple experience. It is therefore concluded that this transition space plays an important role in the temple experience with respect to the visual and energy propagation. These are some of the references we've used. Thank you from my side and Monisha ji's side for giving us an opportunity to present this paper.
Thank you very much. That is again another wonderful topic and a wonderful presentation by Tanisha Datta and Monisha Ghosh. If participants have any comments or questions, please put it. So we can see that simplicity doesn't mean just naivety. We think something is simple, it cannot be sophisticated. But here you have shown that the most sophisticated thing can also be very simple in the sense that it helps us to lead a spiritual life and peaceful life. Normally we see the advancement of a country by the industries, the universities, and the hospitals. But we can understand that these temples were so designed that there was no need for these things. Everything could be accomplished keeping the temple as the center. It's a very excellent presentation. If any, you can see from the comments also. It's also relevant to this conference of simplicity, sustainability, and spirituality. So there's a Pratik Negi is saying that the work is amazing. Is this architecture followed in both Shiva and Vishnu temples? That's his question.
Yes, Srinivas ji, this is mostly the basic temple form for all our temples, because energy centers generation and this overall experience with respect to the sculptural, that is symbolic interpretation and our understanding as well, is similar in both temples. But for Shiva temples, we have a kind of mindset. We have a certain goal. We have, Shiva on our mind, and mythology and the allied stories also go along with it. And likewise, we have slightly different mindset and goals temples and stories in our mind for Vishnu temples. Similarly for Devi temples as well. So overall architecture and the theme remains the same, but the little sculptures and slight modifications as per the deity does take place.
There's one question from Vinay Kumar, that any tips for small home temples at the home? Any suggestions you have? Because we are talked about big temples.
Actually, from the presentation, at least it was very clear that the size of the shikhara impacts the magnitude of energy. So at home, what happens is the pyramid shape, that is generally in case we have the pyramid shape inside the home, is very small. Even though there is some energy generation, but it is at a much lesser magnitude. So may or may not be able to, impact us that much that an actual physical structure may be able.
Thank you. That is a very good answer. So there's a question from Dr. Manjunath Ramanna. Can this energy be quantified, analyzed, and scientifically presented? Because people think this is some superstition, or the science is lost. Nowadays, people are not aware of this science.
No. Monisha ji, will you take this question? She's the engineer here.
Yeah, definitely I can light upon this. There is no fake things like this way, because we have to observe this, because in previous paper we have done, it is basically using the energy centers. Okay, so what is the energy absorbed in, and the architecture is so profound, so that from starting with the Garbhagriha and then come to the Antaralaya and then to the Mandapas, the energy is actually decreasing. From the previous our paper presented in another workshop, another conference, sorry. So there I had we had a knowledge that for absorbing or the conserving the energies inside the Garbhagriha, we have to, the architecture is so much designed so that if there is a Shiva temple, so then the underneath of the linga there is a chamber of the Mercury. So there is a proportion and the calculations for this, so that the energies which is absorbed through the microcosmos levels, and there is a antenna each and every temples, inside the Garbhagriha and above the Meru, there is a antenna kind of pattern. So there is a metallic wire, so which can connect from the top to the ground state for the grounding, and the energy which is generated at the cosmos levels. So this is directly absorbed through the particular antenna. Trishula somewhere we can see, and somewhere Kalasha is also present at the top of the Meru. So from this metallic structure to the deity, and then underneath of the deity, all are interconnected with the energies only. So as we know, the different frequencies are related to energies. In the scientific perspective, we can say that the energy and the frequency, which are exactly related to each other, and how they are each related, that the frequencies which we are able to hear and the frequencies we are able to visualize, they are different sort of RF frequencies or the radio frequencies. Okay, so when we are talking about the frequencies, we are directly connected to the energies, and as per the observations of the energies from the Garbhagriha to the outside the temples is actually decreasing in matter. That is why when we are entering the temple, we have to ring the bell. So there is a significance of the bell. So the frequency which is resonating through the bells is directly resonating our body, and then we are inside the temples, and we are absorbing the one by one structure, the higher from the lower energy state to higher energy state. We can meditate upon this. I hope it is clear. Like there is a total elaborations on this, so this is another topic of the energy, so that I am just briefing out there only with that. Is that okay?
Basically, can I also remind one little experiment that we come across very often, that is little sand on a rubber sheet where underneath some sound is played. So that experiment is called cymatics, and it is the apparatus is called tonoscope. So when we play these sounds, these are certain frequency sounds, and they give rise to these Sri Yantra patterns. I will refer to our previous work, which Monisha ji was referring to. I can share it with everyone, wherein we have calculated these frequencies and understood it through this toroscope study.
That's very nice answer. And I think there's a question being asked here. Is there any ways to quantify this positive effects, positive energy? And I have a question also, apart from this, is that is there any precautions or warnings? Maybe this energy is not suitable for some people. They should not enter this temple under certain conditions. Is there anything like that?
Yes, actually very correctly put, and we've seen this conversation around Sabrimala as well. So we've not really worked on that particular topic, but there are certain frequencies. If there are certain frequencies which are beneficial to us, there have to be certain frequencies which are not, and they must definitely be taken into consideration. And Sabrimala is one such example, and there are a few more temples actually which we generally say that pregnant women should not enter probably, and these kind of things. So there a certain body requirement is there, and certain things are harmful for the body. So these energy generation have to be taken into consideration, and those are good for other kind of people who are looking for a different kind of journey. That is the whole point. It's not that it's not good for everyone. That is the essential baseline here.
If the question has not been answered, regarding the quantifying the positive energy,
Yes. Sir, for that, actually, Monisha ji had worked on solfeggio frequencies last time, and we've done these calculations. So I will share the paper, the previous paper with the group.
Maybe one last question, because it's a very interesting topic. Will there be any side effects if there is any error in the shape, geometry, and design of the yantra?
Yes, actually that is expected, because these are very, very intricate diagrams, and they have to be created perfectly. And I'll just give you one little example. In Khajuraho itself, when ASI was doing all the maintenance work, they thought that they need to do the mortaring perfectly, because it's very ancient. So what they did was they took a tiny little temple, 6 feet by 6 feet temple, and took it apart and marked them all with these codes A1, A2 and all that, and where to put back. And when they started to put it back, it took them 7 years to put it back. So my point here is these are very, very intricately done. They cannot just be pulled apart and put back together. The calculations are immensely detailed. These temple structures are immensely accurate, and they should not and cannot be tampered, and they're very difficult to achieve. That is why, in fact, they are truly the wonders of the world in my purview.
Again, that was really great. And I think there's a comment also that how everything is scientific in Vedic philosophy and the concepts, rituals. Thank you very much. If there are no further questions, I think we'll.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.
So actually, we had 2 more presentations, but I think they have not available. So anyhow, it helps us to manage our time also very well. They were supposed to be. So I would request from Anshika Chaube. The topic was on environment, a miracle that we all have in common, and another presentation was supposed to
I also have a question, sir. Ms. Tanisha Datta. Yeah, I have seen some kind of the geometric architecture over the Yagya Kunda. So is this also have significance?
Yes, actually the Sri Yantra and Yagya Kundas were originally the pair, the ancient pair, and from there the temple architecture started to be built. And now that you've mentioned this, I also would like to mention, of course, Yagya Kunda are very, very important parts, and the step wells, the ancient step wells, they were also built in the same manner. But if you notice, shikharas are upward pointing triangles symbolizing Purusha, and the step wells are downward pointing pyramids, which is the Prakriti. So that is whole another story actually, but they are also following the same geometry and pattern, and they sequestrate energy in the same manner.
I have one question. This cymatics you told, So through cymatics, can we generate Shri Yantra?
Yes, it is quite possible. I have not performed the experiment myself, but I have seen studies where the sound of Om, when played beneath this tonoscope, gives rise to the pattern of Shri Yantra. In fact, I had that
Is it
little
exactly
diagram in
Shri
the
Yantra? Is it exactly Shri Yantra, or it looks like Shri Yantra?
Sir, it is Shri Yantra, but we have to remember that there are various patterns for a Shri Yantra for certain deities. Corresponding to a deity, there is a specific pattern. So it is Shri Yantra that is, being created by the sound of Om.
Right. Thank you.
I would like to thank the organizers for giving me the opportunity to chair the session. I would like to hand over the stage to the coordinators.
Okay, so it was really enlightening to see such wonderful presentations, starting from Varangu and Professor Chaturvedi and other speakers. So I think it's time to end today's session. Before that, I have a couple of announcements to make. I'll just share a few slides. I think many of you have already gone through. So just for completeness, for those who might have attended the first time. So ISS, as all of you might be by now familiar, what we do, we conduct different outreach activities, weekly seminars, we run some academic courses under Indian Knowledge System scheme, and certain core courses, for example, ASPS, Art and Science of Practical Spirituality, where we discuss different aspects of connection between science and spirituality. So it's a very basic course, and it's starting from this 26th of June. I'll describe that shortly. And we also conduct mainstream researches, scientific researches in a proper sense. We discuss on matter, mind, and consciousness. We do discussions and surveys in relation to science, philosophy, and religion. I'm sure in the chat box you might have seen already the survey related to the temperament of Indian scientists towards science and religion. So that is being surveyed now. So you can fill this form. That would be great. And the other topics like origin and evolution of life, Vedic cosmology, and many other areas. These are some of our endeavors that we have been doing for last couple of years. And this is our YouTube channel. I would request again, if you haven't yet subscribed, please visit our YouTube channel, and there are many more than 180 videos in relation to science and spirituality. As you can see in this photo, many eminent people all over the world, they have presented different ideas. It's a really, every topic itself is a great food for thought to explore further. So I would request all of you to visit our YouTube channel. Maybe some of our organizers, they can put the YouTube link in the chat box. And I would request also, if you are interested to formally get involved with ISS and its activities directly or indirectly by supporting us by various means, so you can be a member of ours. There are different schemes you can be part of, and there are special discounts for students also, along with different discount schemes. So you can visit this issdelhi.org/membership. And by your membership, we are supporting our endeavors in promoting the knowledge system in a global frontier. So that is required for further progress in this area, by mutual collaboration and efforts by support. So we may consider this. And this is the most important thing I would like to say. From 26th of June, we're starting our third batch of Art and Science of Practical Spirituality. So this is a very basic course in this area. So we'll discuss science spirituality dialogue, study from core spiritual scriptures like Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, Upanishads. We'll do some sadhanas, means mantra meditation and others. We'll learn how to behave properly as a spiritual minded human being. We'll memorize verses. We'll have open question and answer sessions. So it's a very wonderful course, and many people have already taken advantage of that. If you want to seriously study science and spirituality, this is a primer. you can surely enroll for this, and this is free of cost. You don't have to pay anything. Just visit this issdelhi.org/ASPS. I would request our volunteers if they can paste this link in the chat box. So please visit this, and this is free of cost. You can enroll in this program. So it's a 3 months duration, and for certificate you need at least 80% of attendance. And every session would happen on mostly on Sundays, but depending on the instructor and batches, we may find some other schedule also. And this is our concluding session for the second 3 years international conference. As you can see, many eminent people are there. So Professor Vishalakshi from Mahindra University, she would be chairing the session. And Mr. Anuttama Das, who is International Director of ISKCON Communication, and he's very active in Green ISKCON Initiative, the chair of that. So he's propagating how the urban temples and our temple can be sustainable and contribute towards ecology. So he has been a great pioneer. It would be great to hear from him. So I would request all the participants to be on time, because he has some other schedule, so he would leave very quickly. So to take advantage of that, please do join the sessions. Other speakers like Mr. Asit Nema, Mr. Prashant Raju from Toronto, and many others are lined up. So this is our concluding session. So I really appreciate your enthusiasm, all the 3 sessions you have shown. So along with your interactive questions, thoughtful deliberations, and I'm really thankful to all our MCs and session chairs for wonderfully arranging the whole sessions. So we're really grateful to them. So looking forward to your active participation in the coming session. So thank you. So if
membership page is not working, somebody is saying.
I think it is working. I checked yesterday. Somebody has pasted the link.
Yes, please. So let me once again try. It's there in the chat box.
Yeah, I think it's working. Maybe it's internet issue or something. You can try out in some other device also. Yeah, Vinay Kumarji asking membership plans again. Okay. So there are 5 membership schemes we are introducing. Okay, now working. Yeah. So the first is the ISS member, regular member. So the minimum qualification is you should be a bachelor in any of the disciplines. So the one-time registration fee is 500 rupees. And see, this is just this scheme is valid till 10th June. So you have to hurry. After that, these prices will be revised. And after that, for every year, you have to renew the membership. That is 500 rupees. And otherwise, you may pay one-time fee of 10,000, and you don't have to care. You don't have to worry about recurrent payment. So it's a lifetime membership then. Similarly, for ISS associate member, those who are not in the bachelor's, but still they want to be part of ISS and activities, want to support us. So this is for them. And students are getting discounts, heavy discounts. The one-time registration fee is 250. A student includes PhDs also. So lifetime fee, of course, doesn't make sense for students, because so they have to renew annually. And ISS Patron member are special because anything we do, it requires money. It's the harsh reality of this world. So we are all running by voluntary basis. Meaning everybody in this organization, we are working voluntarily, selflessly. But still, to push these activities forward, we need support. So this membership, ISS Patron membership, is launched, that you can show your love to us by supporting us. Somebody who is interested in research, you can directly contact us. We are conducting many interesting researches. You can be directly part of that. You can write to us, mail us, or WhatsApp us. And this ISS Honorary Fellow is distinguished people to be chosen by ISS. So basically, you have 4 schemes to choose. So I would say that don't get delayed, because these prices will be revised after 10th June. So this is just inaugural scheme that we have launched. So that's all I can say. And by every contribution, whether through monetary support or by your active participation through research or in voluntary organization, in making our efforts reaching far and wide. In every attempt, you are helping to spread Indian knowledge system in a global frontier. So I would request that all of you please be connected with us, whether through formal membership or informal membership. Be part of our regular Sunday events. You may enroll free of cost ASPS sessions also. So yeah, that is all I can say. Thank you very much. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer. Otherwise, it's 12 o'clock. Yeah, we can discuss. Okay, so I think any questions. So Professor Srinivas, should we conclude? Okay, so
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Now it's the time to conclude.
Yeah.
Thank you all the distinguished speakers, the session chair, the participants for giving your valuable time today morning. Wonderful 6 sessions presented, starting from Gauranga Prabhu and the ending with the Sri Yantra. So we had a lot of information. I hope we enjoyed the session, very informative, and we wish that you all meet today evening also. So thank you and good day.